Hello dear students. Today I will discuss about the speed of light. As I have shown you in my previous lecture that in under Galilean transformation in Newtonian mechanics, speed of an electron can be greater than speed of light. Speed of light means what I can say speed of light means 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Speed of light in vacuum. Now, the concept of vacuum was not there in the late 1800th century. There was no concept of vacuum. Then the scientists believed that any wave can't travel in vacuum. So to travel, for traveling any wave needs a medium. Since light is a wave, so it also need a medium. We just consider sun and our earth. If this is sun, then this is our earth. Since light wave is coming to earth, that means then people believe that something there is something in between sun and earth. And what is that called? That called ether. So then the scientists in the late Newtonian and Galilean era, scientists believed that there is some medium between earth and sun, and light travels through that medium. That medium is ether. And the maximum speed of light in vacuum, not in vacuum, then people believe ether is c, 3 into 10 to the power 8 meters per second. So why I am calling this maximum speed of light? Because this is purely experimental. There was not any experimental proof which says speed of light can be greater than this value. And also there was not any experimental proof of any speed of any particle greater than this c value. So I can say that under Galilean transformation, the concept that the speed of light can't be greater than c, that fails. So the concept that speed of light, it is maximum speed of light is C. This concept failed under Galilean transformation. Now, where from the concept of speed of light came? Now, the concept of speed of light came which is nothing by root over mu 0 epsilon rho. This comes from wave equations which we get from Maxwell's equations in electromagnetism. So we can say Galilean transformation fails in electromagnetism. So this is what we can say. The Galilean transformation fails for electromagnetism, but we know that Galilean transformation is valid for Newtonian mechanics. So there are different possibilities. We can say electromagnetism fails and Newtonian mechanics is correct, but we can say it in a different way. What is the different way? The different way is that this relativity concept does not applicable to electromagnetism. So if relativity concept is not applicable, then there must be some absolute reference frame. Some absolute, or we can say some frame, inertial frame which is at rest. Which is basically ether. So this is the second possibility, that electromagnetism equations, Maxwell's equations are valid for some inertial frame of reference which is at rest, which is ether. So if this one is valid, then the existence of ether needs to be proved experimentally. So basically Galilean transformation valid for Newtonian mechanics, and these two, this comes under same point. So we can simply call this 1 and this one, we can call this 1B. This is 1A and 1B. What is our next point? Our next point, what we can say, that simply Maxwell's equations are incorrect. That's why Galilean transformation failed. But to prove this point also, we just can't say that some equations failed. We need experimental proof which shows the failure of Maxwell's equations. But there is none. So there was not any proof which tells that Maxwell's equations are wrong. So what concepts we have? We have first one that there should be some inertial frame at rest which is called ether. And in ether the speed of light is maximum. Either this needs to prove, either this one fails. And number three is Newtonian mechanics is not valid for electromagnetism and also Galilean transformation. That means Newtonian mechanics need to be modified. And new transformation equations are needed also. So these are the consequences. So there is some contrary Galilean transformation. In case of Galilean transformation, it is valid for Newtonian mechanics but not for electromagnetism. That means speed of light. So these contrary leads are some confusion, and how we can clear our confusion? To clear our confusion, we can just do experiments. We can go forward through these points. Number one point is we can assume that relativity concept does not valid for electromagnetism. Okay, it's true. Then we need some proof which says that there is some frame called ether in which speed of light is maximum. Number two, if we just simply assume Maxwell's equations are wrong, but that is not possible because there is also not any proof, or just give us some proof. Or number three, we can say Newtonian mechanics is not valid for electromagnetism, that is not valid for all frames. So the scientists had to think on these points, how to prove that. Now I will simply tell you about some. So Galilei, mathematician from 1564 to 1642, and Isaac Newton from 1642 to 1727. So the Newtonian mechanics and Galilean transformation. This is the era of Newtonian mechanics. And Galilean transformation. This era. So next what comes? Next, in the late 80s, we get the Maxwell's laws. So there was a era where Newtonian mechanics and Galilean transformation were all correct up to late 19th century. But when the concept of Maxwell's laws came, 1861, then people Then people started some question marks on Newtonian mechanics and Galilean transformation in the late 80s. So when the question marks came and there needed some experimental proof of ether, then scientists Michelson and Morley in the late era, then the Michelson and Morley performed some experiments to prove the existence of ether. So existence of ether, to prove that, what that means, we have, then they wanted to show that speed of light changes with respect to speed of reference frame. The famous Michelson-Morley experiment in 1887. So their aim was just to prove our first point, that there exists some inertial frame ether where the maximum velocity or maximum speed of light exists, and relative to that frame, if we measure the speed of light, we get some speed or which is either greater with respect to the ether frame or less than c. Next comes the Einstein, and they failed. And what happened? They failed. They failed in the experiment. They failed to show these things. They tried this one, but they failed. And many others failed to show the existence of ether. So our first point, what was our first point? Our first point was simply that we wanted to prove the existence of ether. So this failed. This one simply Maxwell's equation nullifying. This also failed. So our only possibilities stays in this point. So if we are able to prove these things, then we can explain both electromagnetism and Newtonian mechanics at the same time. So for that, what we have to do? For that, scientist Einstein given his postulates on special theory of relativity. And by Einstein's postulates in 1905, all the confusion were cleared. All the confusion was cleared. So Einstein's postulates, the simple two postulates, and the Lorentz transformation, which was also derived in 1905, simply shows mathematically that Einstein's postulates are true. And by Einstein's postulates, it was shown that the electromagnetism, the speed of light is maximum, and any particle can't achieve any speed which is greater than the speed of light. So the main confusion with speed of light was cleared with Einstein's postulates. Now in my next lecture, I will discuss more elaborately about Einstein's two postulates of special theory of relativity. Thank you for listening.